Carlos and Queen Sofia at their summer palace on the island of Majorca before flying back home to Washington. John Decker, Reuters.
Now, of course, everybody has a right to have a good time and go shopping and do all of these things. But again, it smacks of, just as we noted in that article from Niall Gardner on The Telegraph, that it's just kind of in bad taste. Timing's kind of bad. Having said that, now let's briefly, and can't unfortunately do any of the remaining stories justice as we're down to our last 15 minutes here on episode 182 from MediaMonarchy.com. But the latest episode of NewWorldNextWeek.com is up. The weekly video series from myself and James Corbett of CorbettReport.com. Food safety, net neutrality, take this job and shove it. Of course, the shove it we already went over with the Steven Slater meme and all the others. We're going to quickly get to food safety and net neutrality. But again, always implore you to check out NewWorldNextWeek.com. James Corbett does a fantastic job editing and putting those videos together. Again, 10-ish minutes a week is a great bite-sized form. You can send it out to folks who perhaps wouldn't take the time or can't maybe take the time to listen to 2-hour podcasts. As fun and power-packed as they may be, NewWorldNextWeek.com. We already referenced COINTELPRO, latest episode 141 from CorbettReport.com, How to Divide and Conquer. COINTELPRO counterintelligence program alive and well in the technotronic era as governments around the world hire in agents to infiltrate groups, post comments, and hack blogs all in the name of maintaining social order. The question, as always, is can we learn from history or are we doomed to repeat it? Latest interviews. Monthly interview with Bob Chapman of TheInternationalForecaster.com, the latest Sunday update video, The Naked Truth, Fluoride Poison, and 9/11 Responder Strike Back. All that and so much more from CorbettReport.com. We also have the latest episodes from GroundZeroMedia.org, Clyde Lewis, Sunday nights, blasting out 50,000 watts on KUFO 101.1 FM in Portland, Oregon. Talked about neuro-linguistic programming. You better think twice at least one more time. And if you're not familiar with neuro-linguistic programming, get this episode, check it out. Links in there for you to do a little more study on NLP. And again, your support of GroundZeroMedia.org and, of course, ZeroPointRadio.com makes all these things happen and helps them to continue. So I know last week we mentioned Alex Ansary, Outside the Box. The one we went over last week, 262, was labeled as the final episode, but here we are another week. Here's episode 263. We're going to have to get Alex Ansary back on the show to get all the latest from him. Again, one of the other great alternative independent media folks here in Portland, Oregon. Haven't had him on since episode 75. But quickly now, let's hop to cyberspacewar.com, covering all the attacks on inner and outer space. We'll go over the DEF CON list of headlines, cyber lies, and gag orders. And again, unfortunately, as we're running out of time, I can't do justice to these. But something you'll always hear, and this is what helps beat the drums for the I-Patriot Act that will be shoved down our throats after an I-9/11. Not to mention EMPs and CMEs and all of those other things, but the cyber lie has been exposed. Power plants not connected to the internet. This article from Paul Joseph Watson, as well as Threat Level and Danger Room, debunks this fear-mongering meme put forth by Lieberman that, of course, he already noted. You know, China has great internet controls. We need that here, he said. So again, I just said it. Let's say it again. DHS needs to take threat of EMP attack seriously, physicist warns. That's from securitymanagement.com. Google CEO Eric Schmidt notes that no anonymity is the future of the web. You'd even argue it's quite the present of the web. Google also was raided by South Korean police over the Street View probe. The Google Why Spy situation that's still ongoing. Appeals court rules against secret police GPS tracking. More on that from Threat Level. Cars hacked through wireless tire sensors. That's from ArsTechnica.com. GeoEye and Digital Globe get $7 billion from intel agencies to implement next-generation satellite imagery. That's from Popular Science. And a little bit of good news at the end of this DEF CON. John Doe, who fought FBI spying, freed from his gag order finally after 6 years. More on that from Threat Level. Because he was given a NSL, National Security Letter, which means stop what you're doing and you can't tell anybody about it or why. But also on cyberspacewar.com, cops love iPhone data trails. Criminals who use device may be left without alibi. This from the Chicago Sun-Times. Detective Josh Fazio of the Will County Sheriff's Department in Illinois loves it when an iPhone turns up as evidence in a criminal case. When someone tells me they have an iPhone in a case, I say, yeah, I can do tons with an iPhone. Because they store more data than other phones, and investigators such as Fazio frequently can tap into that information for evidence. When you hit the delete button, it's never really deleted. The devices can help police learn where you've been, what you've been doing there, and whether you've got something to hide, because you're guilty. Pre-crime. And they, of course, end it with, as they do all these things, they sell it to you with a nice public relations sheen as we pave the road to hell with these supposed good intentions. Sometimes the phones can even help if the case isn't a matter of life and death. In Kane County, Illinois, the sheriff's department used GPS information from one of the phones to help reunite a worried father with his runaway daughter, who was staying at a friend's house. Lastly, on cyberspacewar.com, the Google-Verizon deal, the end of the net as we know it, or Verizoogle, if you like, unveiling their new private net neutrality deal. This from Josh Silver on Free Press, and we do cover this on the latest NewWorldNextWeek.com. For years, Internet advocates have warned of the doomsday scenario that played out on Monday. Verizoogle, or Google and Verizon, will announce a deal that the New York Times reported, quote, could allow Verizon to speed some online content to Internet users more quickly if the content's creators are willing to pay for the privilege. And, of course, they'll have the deep pockets, and they will pay for that privilege. This deal marks the beginning of the end of the net as you and I know it. Since its beginnings, the net was a level playing field that allowed all content to move at the same speed, whether it's ABC News or your uncle's video blog. That's all about to change, and the result couldn't be more bleak for the future of Internet, for television, for radio, and for independent voices.